So maybe just like me, you're very interested and excited for the Apple Watch Ultra, but then you wonder, is it even worth it if you don't plan on scaling Mount Everest or maybe even participating in a marathon? Well, good news. You can truly appreciate this product even if you're not an adventurer or an explorer, and I'm here to tell you why. Now, before I dive in, I want to make sure that I set some expectations for this video first. I did not go diving or mountain climbing or even go out in the wilderness with the Ultra, even though that is clearly what Apple has painted this watch to be for. Instead, I used the Ultra like how most people with Apple Watches would. Because if you're watching this video, you are most likely in the same situation as me, where you're intrigued by it, but also on the fence whether the extra features exclusive to the Ultra makes the $800 price tag worth it. So what you can expect from this review is my experience using the watch daily for almost 2 weeks, both as just an everyday watch and as a tracker for my sleep and workouts. And I'm also going to share my experience after connecting my Apple Watch Ultra to a cellular service, because I might as well try to maximize the Ultra experience as best as a non-outdoorsy, sportsy person can. So if you want a quick answer, I ended up loving the watch much more than I expected, but I also hate the fact that I do. Now I'll explain why later in this video. But to kick things off, let's address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the elephant on my wrist. The loudest critics about the Apple Watch Ultra will always point out its relatively humongous size at 49 millimeters. I was in the same boat too, if I'm being honest. But I'm here to tell you that while it's significantly bigger than any other series Apple Watch, it's really not as bad as you might think. Here's the Ultra compared to some of my bigger analog watches. The Ultra's tall screen is what really makes it bigger at 49 millimeters. Even if the smaller yet visibly bigger Amazfit measures at 47 millimeters. I was actually surprised at how normal the Ultra's size looked to me when I opened the box and put it on for the first time. As a matter of fact, I posted a few photos on Twitter of me wearing the Ultra to give people an idea of what it looks like on my 6.5-inch wrist. Now mind you, I'm not considered to be a large person at 5'5" and 160 pounds. Now I did get a few Ben 10 jokes, but most responses were very positive. Yes, the Ultra is bigger, but really, only if you compare it to a regular Apple Watch. My friend John Imperial pointed out that perhaps the reason people get upset over the size is because they were simply not given a smaller option. And I think that's a great point. Since the Ultra is only available in one size, maybe people just felt left out. I mean, if I'm not into big watches, I'd most likely feel the same way. So the Ultra is larger for ease of use, better battery performance, and thanks to a more robust design, more resilient against the elements. I was able to compose and reply to messages comfortably thanks to the larger and flat design of the screen, which I also happen to find to be a bit more attractive design-wise than the rounded screen of the Series 8. The screen gets very bright even under direct sunlight, which makes for a really great experience using it in just about any lighting condition. Speaking of lighting, exclusive to the Ultra is this really cool looking night mode. And that's pretty much all it does. Sadly, this mode only works on the Wayfinder watch face, exclusive to the Ultra. I'd be lying though if I said I didn't appreciate it, especially when I'm driving at night. watchOS 9 is responsive and intuitive. A generally bug-free experience. But for some weird reason, I keep accidentally triggering the complication on the lower left screen, which launches my timer app. I didn't wear long sleeves or a jacket during my test of the Apple Watch Ultra, so it might simply just be purely accidental. I'm not really sure why it's happening, but I'll keep an eye on it. In the meantime, I can get around this problem by simply disabling that particular complication. The weight of the Ultra is really surprising. It's so light that it took me a second to correlate the size and weight in my head. My 42mm Seiko feels like a brick on my wrist compared to the Ultra, and this makes wearing this less of a burden than you would probably expect. I'm not just saying that it's light for its size. I mean, it genuinely feels light. Although maybe not ideal for most people if you want to wear it to bed, but you sure can if you want to track your sleep. I tried it and it felt comfortable enough that I forgot I was actually wearing it. So I ordered my Ultra with the Ocean Band. It sometimes looks like it's black, but it's actually a navy blue color. This band is also lightweight, which makes it comfortable for everyday use, even during workouts. I always thought that the thicker bands look good on chunkier watches. No regrets with my choice. But in case you already have a favorite band from another 44 or 45mm Apple Watch, those will work with the Ultra too. I did find a really nice strap from Spigen that I think complements the Ultra very much. It's not as comfortable as the Ocean Band, but design-wise, I think it's a good pair. I'll leave the Amazon link in the description below if you're interested in checking it out. So aside from the larger screen and titanium case, the action button is the biggest physical differentiator between the Ultra and the Series 8. The idea for this button is simple. You assign a specific app to it, such as the timer, depth gauge, or waypoint. This makes activating your most used app easy without having to navigate using the screen. This button is most ideal for people who are into extreme sports or those who are outdoor enthusiasts. And I say that not because that it's the marketing direction Apple decided to take, but rather because the apps you can assign to the action button are extremely limited. Aside from the aforementioned apps, you can program the action button to launch Spotify, make a call, take a music quiz for some odd reason, and a few others that frankly I just don't use enough to justify the shortcut. Why Apple did this? I can only guess that they really wanted to appeal to the sports enthusiasts and make the action button an indispensable feature that separates it further from the Series 8. Kind of how they used to lock out watch faces to certain Apple Watch models like Nike and Hermes. While the action button can be useful due to its limitations, it can feel a bit gimmicky for a non-sports person like myself. Speaking of watch faces, I've really enjoyed the exclusive Wayfinder watch face on the Ultra. While the default setting is a bit too colorful for my taste, you can fine-tune the look using the Watch app on your iPhone. Everyone on the internet has been raving about the battery life of the Ultra, and for good reason. Mine takes almost 3 days before needing to charge, but this really depends on how much you use it for notifications and such. Realistically, if you are a heavy watchOS user, you should see around 2 days of battery life, which is still commendable considering that the regular Apple Watches need to be charged almost at the end of the day. So at the very least, the Ultra takes care of battery anxiety on a daily level if you don't plan on wearing it to bed. Also good for short weekend trips if you hate the idea of bringing a charger with you. I brought this up with a triathlete friend of mine, and according to him, while the Apple Watch Ultra is promising, the battery performance simply cannot beat his Garmin smartwatch that can last up to 3 weeks while actively tracking his activities, including his sleep. Not to mention it has preloaded topographic maps and can be recharged by solar energy. The Ultra clearly does a lot more than just track activities, but that also becomes its Achilles heel due to the battery usage. So at least according to him, for now, he'd rather stick with his Garmin. Adding cellular service makes Apple's flagship smartwatch essentially a slightly less smart smartphone. Let me explain. For my network, which is T-Mobile, the service costs an additional $10 a month, which I can cancel anytime. The only other cost was a one-time $35 activation fee. I walk about a total of 3 miles every day, and I intentionally leave my phone at home to see what it's like to be phone-less. It wasn't a comfortable feeling at first, which in itself is already an eye-opening experience for me, and leaving my phone feels kind of like forgetting my wallet or ID. I just felt naked. Anyway, the Apple Watch Ultra was able to keep me connected enough to receive calls or messages. While I wasn't walking in the wilderness, the signal strength was strong and felt like I was still carrying my phone. I was still able to listen to music and podcasts, but with some caveat. If you try to stream music via Spotify, the watch will give you a prompt saying that watchOS 9 experiences issues when streaming, so it is highly recommended that you download your music or podcasts to your watch before you leave your phone. You do this by clicking on Download to Apple Watch on your phone with whatever app it is that you're using. Not ideal, but reasonable request, right? Just know that transfer speeds aren't that great, so don't expect to head out the door right away as soon as you hit the download button, meaning you have to plan ahead and figure out what you want to listen to and download them to your watch way ahead of time. Downloading a single audiobook from my Audible account took much longer, but once it's on your watch, playback isn't a problem at all. When receiving calls on my Ultra, speaker performance was pretty good. It sounds loud and clear on both ends, but I wasn't able to test it out in windy conditions because, well, it just wasn't windy enough in my area. Admittedly, it's a bit strange for someone who isn't Dick Tracy to have a full-on conversation with his watch while walking around the neighborhood. So I prefer to use my earbuds during calls. Oh, and my Beats Fit Pros connect to my Apple Watch automatically as soon as I leave my phone at home. And yes, I know this feature isn't exclusive to the Ultra models. You can do pretty much the same thing with a regular Apple Watch with cell service. But since the Ultra automatically has cellular capabilities built in, it kind of begs for you to try it out. I'm currently on a trial period of Apple's Fitness Plus service, which includes special audio episodes to accompany me during my walks. Every time a relevant photo is mentioned in the audiobook, the watch vibrates, prompting me to check it. Viewing the photo on the Ultra's large screen is pretty satisfying and adds another unique layer to the Apple Watch experience. Again, I'm not saying this is an exclusive feature to the Ultra, but I think its physical size makes for a more engaging experience. All of this led to the biggest and probably my favorite perk of owning the Apple Watch Ultra, and it's freedom from my phone. I never knew how much unneeded attention I gave it until I started leaving it behind. In the beginning, I would constantly try to reach for my phone only to realize that it isn't there. And when I stopped to consider why I needed to do that, it really was just to check social media. The Apple Watch Ultra has become my social media detox tool, and I love it. Apple clearly didn't hold back with the messaging for the Ultra. It is clearly intended for people who are into extreme sports or outdoor enthusiasts. But what if you're not one of those people? Well, the reality is the Ultra is also appealing to non-extreme people, just like me. It looks different enough from a typical Apple Watch, and the screen is a joy to interact with. The cellular service elevates the experience further, although maybe not as much as you probably might think. But overall, I feel like it's a good price for a watch/phone. So, if the size is not what's keeping you from getting it, I'm guessing it might be the fear of ridicule due to Apple's marketing. I've already heard my fair share of jokes such as, "Which mountaintop are you taking your Ultra to?" So I get it. If that's the case, just remember that most beloved watches were also specifically marketed towards explorers and adventurers. When was the last time anyone asked a Rolex owner where they've taken their Submariner to? My point is, a watch can simply represent your personal achievements, taste, or even aspirations. There's absolutely no need to justify it other than you like the way it looks and the way it works. The Ultra has become my favorite daily watch, and I ended up liking it much more than I expected. But I kind of hate the fact that I do, because it does such a good job doing the things I want it to do. Unless it's a special occasion, it might be a while before I pick up one of my favorite analog watches again. I hope you found this review helpful, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. This helps me grow, and the support will enable me to make more videos like this for you to watch. Until next time, take care. I had her try it out just to see what it looks like on her wrist, and she said thanks. I guess I'm not getting it back?